My hands went numb around my water glass the instant Camille's voice cut through the restaurant noise. "We don't feed extras." The words hit like ice water in my veins, but it was watching my 14-year-old son's shoulders collapse that made my vision tunnel. Theo's fingers froze halfway to his menu, and in that crystalline moment, I tasted copper pennies on my tongue, the same metallic flavor that had filled my mouth during every childhood humiliation my sister had orchestrated. The crystal chandelier above our corner booth at Meridian seemed to dim as my mother nodded in agreement. "You should know your place, dear." Her manicured fingers drummed the white tablecloth like she was conducting a symphony of cruelty. "My name is Diana. I'm 38, and I'm a restaurant owner. This is the story of how I served my family their coldest dish yet." The irony burned in my chest as I watched Camille gesture dismissively toward Theo's empty place setting. She'd chosen Meridian herself. "The perfect venue for celebrating real achievements," she'd said on the phone 3 days ago. What she didn't know was that I'd signed the deed to this building 18 months ago, transforming a failing seafood place into the reservation-only gem where Portland's elite now waited 2 months for a table. Theo kept his eyes down, studying the intricate pattern of the tablecloth, while his twin cousins, Brooklyn and Madison, whispered about their college acceptance letters. At 16, they possessed the kind of casual confidence that came from never doubting their worth. They'd inherited Camille's sharp cheekbones and our mother's ability to look through people who didn't serve their narrative. "The girls will have the lobster thermidor," Camille announced to our server, a young woman named Sage, whom I'd personally hired last spring. Sage's eyes flicked to me, not with recognition, but with the practiced alertness of someone who sensed tension brewing at her table. "And for the young man?" Sage asked, her pen poised over her notepad. "He doesn't need anything elaborate," Camille interjected before Theo could speak. "This dinner is about honoring the twins' achievements. We don't need everyone acting like it's their special night." The words landed like physical blows. I watched Theo's Adam's apple bob as he swallowed his response, his dark eyes so much like his late father's, glassing over with the effort of holding back tears. David had been gone for 3 years now, and moments like this made me wish he was still here to shield our son from this cruelty. Mother lifted her wine glass, the Pinot Grigio catching the light like liquid gold. "Camille's right. Everyone should understand their role tonight." That's when something crystallized inside me, sharp and clear as the ice in my untouched water. I'd spent 38 years swallowing moments like this, training myself to be smaller, quieter, more palatable. But sitting here in my own restaurant, watching them try to diminish my son, I felt something different. Not anger, angles, a geometric understanding of exactly how this evening would unfold. "Noted," I said softly, my voice steady as bedrock. Camille's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. "What does that mean?" "Just that I heard you." I folded my hands on the table, noting how the servers moved in perfect choreography behind the open kitchen's gleaming brass rails. "Every word." The appetizer course arrived, Pacific oysters on crushed ice, accompanied by house-made mignonette that had taken me months to perfect. Camille waved her hand dismissively when Sage moved to place a shell before Theo. "He won't be needing one." Sage hesitated, her professional smile flickering. She looked to me again, and this time I saw something I recognized. The careful expression of an employee waiting for direction from someone who actually held authority. I gave the slightest nod. "It's fine," I said quietly. "Continue serving the others." As Sage retreated, I watched Theo trace invisible patterns on his unused napkin. His silence wasn't submission, it was trust. Somehow, despite everything, my son still believed I would protect him. Mother dabbed her lips with her napkin, leaving a pale pink impression on the linen. "This mignonette is exceptional. The chef here clearly understands Pacific Northwest cuisine." I agreed. "He trained under me for 2 years before I promoted him to head chef." The table went still. Camille's fork paused midway to her mouth. "Promoted him?" she repeated slowly. "From sous chef to executive chef," I clarified, my voice conversational. When I bought Meridian last year, Marco was the obvious choice to run the kitchen. He has remarkable instincts for flavor profiles. Brooklyn looked up from her phone for the first time all evening. Wait, Aunt Diana, you work here? Not exactly, I said, catching Sage's eye across the dining room. She'd been watching our table with growing understanding, and now I saw the moment of recognition bloom across her face. I own here. The silence stretched taut as piano wire. Even the couples at neighboring tables seemed to lean in, sensing the shift in our atmosphere. Mother's voice came out strangled. Diana, surely you're not… Serious? I finished gently. Sage, could you ask Marco to join us for a moment? I'd like him to meet my family. Camille's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something approaching horror as the kitchen doors swung open. Chef Marco emerged, wiping his hands on a pristine white apron, his expression curious but professional. Ms. Rivera, he said, approaching our table with the easy confidence of someone who'd worked closely with me for over a year. Is everything satisfactory this evening? Perfect as always, I replied. Marco, I'd like you to meet my mother, Evelyn, my sister Camille, and my nieces Brooklyn and Madison. And this… I placed my hand on Theo's shoulder, feeling him straighten under my touch. Is my son Theo. Marco smiled warmly. A pleasure to meet you all. Ms. Rivera speaks of her family often. Could you tell them what your position is here? I asked. I'm the executive chef, Marco replied, his gaze moving between the stunned faces around the table. Ms. Rivera gave me complete creative control over the menu when she acquired the restaurant. It's been an incredible opportunity. Camille finally found her voice. Acquired? 18 months ago, I confirmed. The previous owners were struggling. I saw potential in the location and Marco's vision for locally sourced Pacific Northwest cuisine. Mother's wine glass trembled in her grip. Diana, this isn't necessary. Actually, it is. My voice remained calm, but I let steel creep into the edges. Because tonight, in my restaurant, you told my employee not to serve my son. You announced that he doesn't deserve dinner in my establishment. The words hung in the air like smoke. I could see other diners glancing our way, sensing drama but unable to place its source. Marco, I continued, please have Sage prepare our finest appetizer selection for Theo. The Dungeness crab cakes with that wonderful mango salsa, the salmon tartare, and perhaps some of those Pacific prawns with the chili lime butter. Of course, Marco nodded, understanding immediately. And for the main course? What would you like, sweetheart? I asked Theo, whose eyes had grown wide with a mixture of amazement and fierce pride. His voice came out stronger than it had all evening. The ribeye with the truffle butter. Excellent choice, Marco beamed. I'll prepare it personally. Marco headed back toward the kitchen, and moments later, Sage appeared beside our table with perfect timing. And please bring Theo the Waterford crystal for his water, the good glasses. Right away, Ms. Rivera. Camille's face had gone the color of raw salmon. Diana, please, we didn't know… That's exactly the point, I interrupted softly. You didn't know because you never asked. You saw a place to stage your performance and assumed I was just another member of your audience. Mother leaned forward, her voice dropping to a hiss. You're embarrassing us. I met her eyes steadily. Embarrassing you? Camille announced to an entire restaurant that my 14-year-old son doesn't deserve food. She called him an extra at a family dinner. But I'm the one causing embarrassment? Brooklyn and Madison exchanged uncomfortable glances, their earlier confidence evaporating like steam from the oyster shells. Theo's appetizers began arriving, artistic arrangements on pristine white plates that showcased Marco's considerable talents. Each dish was a small masterpiece, and I watched my son's face transform as he realized this feast was meant for him. Try the crab cakes first, I suggested. Marco's been perfecting that mango salsa for months. As Theo took his first bite, his face lit up with genuine delight. Mom, this is incredible. I know, I said simply. It's yours. Camille tried one more time. Diana, we're family. Can't we just… Family? I let the word hang between us. Family doesn't treat children like unwanted props. Family doesn't publicly humiliate 14-year-olds for sport. I gestured around the elegant dining room at the soft lighting and carefully curated atmosphere I'd spent 2 years perfecting. You chose this restaurant to make a statement about success and achievement. You just didn't realize whose statement you were making. When Theo's ribeye arrived, cooked to perfection and accompanied by roasted vegetables arranged like a work of art, I watched him cut into the tender meat with reverent care. "How is it?" I asked. "The best thing I've ever tasted," he said softly, and I could hear the gratitude in his voice for more than just the food. As the evening wound down, Sage approached our table with the check discreetly folded in a leather folder. I handed it directly to Camille. "What's this?" she asked weakly. "Your celebration," I said. "Your choice of venue, your ordered wine, your insistence on being the host. Hosts pay for their parties." Camille opened the folder and went pale. Between the premium wine, the lobster thermidor for the twins, and Theo's elaborate feast, the total had reached well into the hundreds. "Diana, please." "You can afford it," I said gently. "After all, you said this dinner was for people who've achieved real success." As Camille fumbled for her credit card, her hands shaking slightly, I felt a profound sense of completeness. This wasn't about revenge, it was about restoration. About showing my son that his worth wasn't up for debate, that some battles are won not with shouting, but with quiet certainty. "Are they going to be okay?" Theo asked quietly, watching his aunt struggle with the payment. "They'll be fine," I assured him. "They're just learning something new about respect." When they finally left the restaurant, awkward goodbyes and mumbled apologies trailing behind them as they made their way to the parking lot, Theo and I sat alone in the restaurant I'd built from scratch. He finished every bite of his dinner, and I watched him discover what it felt like to be treated like he mattered. "Mom?" he said as we prepared to leave. "Yes?" "Thank you for not letting them make me disappear." I brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. "You could never disappear, Theo. You're the main character of your own story. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." As we walked out into the Portland night, past the line of people still hoping for last-minute tables at my restaurant, I realized something had shifted permanently. I'd spent decades shrinking to fit my family's narrow definitions of worth. Tonight, I'd shown my son what it looked like to refuse that shrinkage. Some lessons are taught through words. Others require crystal glasses and perfectly prepared ribeye, served in a room where your name is on the deed and your voice carries the authority you've earned through late nights and careful choices. If you've ever been made to feel like an extra in your own family story, tell me where you're watching from. And remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to stay small. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.